Hey everyone. Hey everyone. Welcome to another Facebook Live. And it's Friday and at the end of another week. I hope everyone is doing good and has been dealing with their social distancing okay and taking in all the resources that all the great people are putting out there for workouts and just advice for doing things with kids at home and meditations and all the great stuff. There's a lot of good content out there. It's really great to see communities coming together and really helping each other out and providing assistance when we all need it. I have a guest with me today. Megan is here with me. She's playing in the office, building a fort with boxes there. So if you hear some noise in the background, that's who it is. That's where it's coming from. So I apologize, but I asked her if she wanted to be in the video, but she said no. So today I thought I would do a little bit of a Q&A. I love answering people's questions and providing knowledge to everyone. So I'll do these every so often instead of just hearing me babble on about something. So I got a couple questions from a few people today. So thank you everyone who submitted questions. And I'm going to try and go through these the time that we have today. So the first question comes from, so I apologize, I'm going to read them off the computer here. The first question comes from Stephanie. She says, how do you know when you should add things like collagen to your smoothies? So it's a decent question, right? How do you know when you should add things like collagen to your smoothie? So collagen, for those of you who don't know, is a type of protein that helps with creating and building and maintaining connective tissue. So things like your joints and skin, hair, nails are all made up of what's called these collagen proteins. It's a specific type of protein, but it's often referred to as an incomplete protein because it does not have all the necessary amino acids in it. But it is a very useful type of protein for maintaining things like your skin health and your hair and your nails. And lots of times when people first start taking collagen, they might see their nails grow a little bit further or faster. Their hair might grow faster. Their skin might be more elastic than it was. So there's a lot of benefits to taking collagen. And we usually get collagen in our diets traditionally from eating the connective tissues of the animals that we eat. So all that gristly stuff at the bones, on the bones of the animal, the skin of the animal, those types of things. And unfortunately, a lot of that stuff is not eaten very commonly today. Like a lot of people don't buy meat on the bone anymore. And a lot of people just, avoid all that gristly stuff at the end of the bones that might be hard or chewy or whatnot. I personally love that stuff. If you give me a bone and I can chew the ends, like cartilage and stuff like that off the end of it, I'd love that stuff. Lots of times to make that stuff, those types of meats or meats that have a lot of collagen in them, a little bit more enjoyable, they tend to do well in a slow cooker. So oxtail is the tail of a cow, and it has a lot of cartilage in it, very gelatinous. But in order to really eat that stuff, you kind of just need to put it in a slow cooker. So lots of times you'll see recipes that use these types of meats or cuts of meat, and they end up going to slow cooker, and it just breaks everything down really well, so it's much more enjoyable to eat. But like even if you just have chicken thighs on a bone with the skin on, you're going to get a good amount of some collagen from the skin, and then if you eat the gristly parts in between the bones, you'll get some collagen from that too. Another way to that you would get collagen in your diet is from bone broth. It's probably my favorite way and most enjoyable way of getting collagen in my diet. So make some bone broth. Take the chicken carcass. Hey, Reagan. Chicken carcass, and put it in a slow cooker or an Instant Pot. Cook it for a while. If you're going to do a slow cooker, cook it in the slow cooker for 24 hours. And if you're going to do Instant Pot, it just takes a few hours actually to do in the Instant Pot. Do you want to join me, Reagan? Is that why you're coming up here?
I made it through the tunnel.
You made it through the tunnel. Okay. Yeah, so that's one of the good ways you can buy bone broth now in the supermarket. It's very common to find it, even in just regular old supermarkets. You'll find bone broth, and make sure you're getting it from a good quality source. If you're going to buy it in a store, make sure it's organic, made with organic bones, and if you can find bone broth pre-made from grass-fed or pasture-raised animals, that's always going to be best as well. But making it home is super simple. If you have bones from animals that you're eating, it's a great way to repurpose everything. And again, I like to, when the bone broth is done cooking, all those bones that you put in there, there's even more meat and cartilage and stuff at the end of those, and I'll eat those as I take the bones out of the pot. So that's another way to do it. And if you want to make add some extra collagen into that bone broth, if you can find some chicken feet or pig feet. I like pig feet. And throw those in there with the bone broth. I guarantee you your bone broth will be taken to the next level if you do that stuff. Sounds weird, sounds disgusting. I know it's weird, but I'm telling you right now, it makes the best bone broth ever. And you can get chicken feet and pig feet extremely cheap. So it's very cheap to get those things. So that's, how we would traditionally get bone broth. How we traditionally get collagen in our diet. But it's also very popular today to supplement with collagen. Again, because people don't eat those, cuts of meat and don't make bone broth and etc. I personally still supplement with collagen, even though Regan is taking a picture of us. Even though I do eat those cuts of meat and do drink bone broth, I do it because I just like to that extra protection for my joints as an active individual, someone who's always putting stress on their joints and cartilage and stuff like that. I believe it can't help in maintaining those and helping me stave off injury. It's particularly good if you are injured. So if you do have an injury, some type of soft tissue injury, collagen would be something that you definitely want to start adding in while you're healing from that injury. But I think it's definitely a worthwhile thing to take every day if you want. It's not necessary by any means, but you probably will see some benefits from doing it. And it's quite tasty and not terribly expensive. I like the Ancient Nutrition multi-collagen vanilla flavor. There's different types of collagen, and that kind of just offers a wide variety of different types of collagen in that one supplement. So that's what I personally use. So I think it's worthwhile supplement if you're tight on money and you can't do it, no biggie. But if you have the extra cash to buy the supplement, go and do it. If not, make it bone broth. That's the easiest and cheapest way to do it. So that's my answer there. Next question is from Jennifer. She had a kind of a doozy of a question, but I think it's worthwhile kind of talking about. So she said, Jennifer says, I've been following keto for some time and my weight loss is very slow. I went 12 weeks with no weight loss and then backed off of keto to focus on sleep and stress. So I'm just going to pause there and say, Jennifer, that's awesome, right? It's great that you recognize that there are other things that contribute to weight loss besides the foods that you're eating and the activity that you might be doing. So stress and sleep play a very important role in weight loss. And if those aren't in line, you can often have a lot of trouble trying to lose weight. So kudos to you for backing off and focusing on those things and getting those things in line before doing anything else. So I gained weight in that time, but slid back into unhealthy habits, which is not terribly uncommon for some people. I started back strict primal in January, and in keto, and did a keto reset. So Mark Sisson's keto reset on February 1st. Um, since then, she says I've lost 5 pounds. I feel better and notice a different. Thank you, Reagan. A difference in energy, sugar cravings, and hunger levels. So all positive things. Doctor says I'm healthy aside from being obese, which is great. Um, that's the fact that you are healthy, all your metabolic markers look good, is a great sign. So that's if those were out of line, then I would focus on those before any kind of weight loss, anyways. Bodyweight exercise 2 to 3 times a week. Low intensity, steady state exercise 2 times a week. Her macros are 50 grams total carbs for mostly veggies, 115 grams of protein. So I like to see that protein number that high, which is great. 112 grams of fat, which I don't always meet anymore. Total calories is around 1,700 calories. And she, in quotation marks, said, "Is that too high?" Um, hey, stop that, you silly goose. She says, "I still have 50 to 60 pounds to lose, if not more. Do I need to be more patient? Do I need to find ways to troubleshoot? Should I adjust my macros? Thanks for all you do." So you're welcome, Jennifer, first of all. And I asked her exactly, what was the time frame that she's lost these 5 pounds lately, and she said, "I'm just looking at her email here. She says she's lost those 5 pounds in the past 5 weeks. So it's about a pound a week, which is perfect. That's perfect weight loss. I like to see weight loss between anywhere from a half a pound to a pound a week is spot on, and is easily maintainable over the long term. If you start to see numbers that are greater than a pound a week, it's probably not going to be something that you can maintain for the long term. So the fact that she's at a pound a week since starting back on keto is great. So I ended up just responding back to her and saying, everything looks really good from what she's told me above, and I don't think her macros are out of line. I don't think that her calories are too high. I think her exercise is great. I think the fact that she's got her sleep and stress in line is perfect. Um, so I basically said to her, I wouldn't change a thing. So a pound a week in the past 5 weeks, just keep doing what you're doing. There's no reason to change what you're doing when that is working. And
Can I do Lexia?
in a little bit. Remote learning. So there's no reason to change what you're doing if that's been working. So just keep going and doing what you're doing, Jennifer. And as long as you keep on losing weight, doing that, and I think it all sounds good. I wouldn't change a thing. Patience is sometimes the hardest thing, right? It might seem like, oh, if I continue losing a pound a week, I would lose 50 pounds in a year, and she'd be out of her goal, right? And that's if everything went perfect for an entire year, and we know that's not going to happen. So she's not going to probably lose a pound a week for 50 weeks. Maybe she will, and that would be great if she did. But just having some patience, giving yourself some grace, especially in these times where things are a little uncertain and maybe slightly more stressful than normal. To give yourself some grace and to just do the best you can is what we can ask for, and just keep going and do what you're doing. It sounds all good to me. So keep going, keep up the good work, and thanks for the question, Jennifer. All right, last question is from Trevor, and he had one that actually I had been thinking about this topic and was thinking about writing a little piece about it, and I still think I might. And he actually asked the question that I was thinking about. So he says, here's something I've been thinking about if you feel like answering during Q&A. We often hear from health experts in our space that lean muscle mass correlates strongly with longevity and health span, and we should be doing everything we can to gain or preserve it as we age. How should athletes think about this in terms of training for muscle mass versus performance? As we know, they are sometimes at odds. One could go all in on resistance training for hypertrophy at one extreme, or only train for ultra endurance at the other. I realize it depends on individual goals, but I'm interested more on the topic of an ideal balance, if there is such a thing. somewhat irrespective of goals. Where do you find yourself on this balance? So this is a great question, Trevor, and I've been, like I said, been thinking a little bit about this topic myself. Because to be honest, this last question there is where do I find myself? I've kind of switched my views and opinions on this over the past few years. So, as some of you might know, I have a strong endurance background with obstacle course racing. I've done very long races that have taken me upwards of 14 hours to complete. And I've done ultra endurance style training. But as of late, after the past 2 years or so, I've been really getting into strength training, and I've kind of enjoy strength training a fair bit more than going out and running for 4 hours. And it's not only because of the longevity benefits; it's just a personal preference, which I think is a very important thing in this discussion as well. But to answer Trevor's question, I think that there should be a balance. If you are someone who's concerned about longevity, you're not making a living off of running very long ultra endurance type of events. Your survival doesn't depend on it, and you're doing it for fun. I think that everyone, if you're just doing it for fun, should be concerned about their health first, and then the fun of what they're doing second. And that means, and you can still be a very good competitive amateur endurance racer while still having adequate muscle mass. And I think that that's a balance that you need to strive for. So just to circle back on what Trevor was saying here, it's basically, why is muscle mass important for longevity and health span? Well, as we age, we do a couple things happen. We tend to lose our muscle mass, right? You might have heard of sarcopenia. That happens to older individuals. Our bones get brittle, and we have less flexibility as we age. And these three things kind of form this like trifecta of, for lack of a better word, death in older individuals. And why is that? Well, since we are less flexible, we are more likely to put ourselves in compromised positions when trying to do everyday tasks, right? Maybe you're trying to, you can no longer reach over your head, so you need to get up on a stool, or you can no longer bend over properly, so you put yourself in some kind of awkward position to bend over and pick something up. You have trouble getting in and out of chairs, or on or off the toilet, or whatever. So that causes a problem. And when we put ourselves in awkward positions like that, because we have less muscle mass, we tend to lose our muscle mass. Our balance is is not as good. So what happens when you put yourself in an awkward position? Your balance is challenged. When your balance isn't good, you lose your balance and you fall over. And what happens when you fall over and your bones are brittle? You break a bone, right? And what happens when you break a bone and you're old? You end up in the hospital. And what happens when you get into the hospital? You're more likely to get sick, catch an infection, pneumonia, something. If you have to, God forbid, if you have to have surgery, it's more risky. These types of things end up happening, and then you end up dying from the infection or the whatever you caught while you were in the hospital, or you have other underlying conditions, because let's face it, if you're not maintaining your muscle mass, you're probably not working out, you probably are less healthy in general, you have other underlying conditions. Now you're bedridden in a hospital, you can't get up, you can't move, you can't go outside, you're not eating, you're eating hospital food, all these things, and these underlying conditions can get exacerbated and lead to early death, right? So it's not necessarily that muscle mass protects you. Well, I guess it does protect you, but it's a factor in some downstream consequence that leads to your demise, essentially. So as we age, it's very important to maintain that muscle mass, because then we don't lose our balance, we don't fall over, our bones aren't as brittle. I know you're hot. I'm sorry. Our bones aren't brittle. We'll be more flexible, and we just won't fall over in the first place and break a bone. So if we want to maintain that muscle mass as we age, how do we strike a balance if we're also an endurance athlete? And like I said, I'm in this situation, right? I've thought about this a lot, and I think that for one, we need to look at it from a perspective of, what are you trying to accomplish, right? if your goal is to run a very long race, but yet maintain your muscle mass, what is the minimum effective dose of strength training that you can do that's going to help you do that? And so basically perform at your endurance event while still maintaining muscle mass. Because what happens with endurance athletes is they end up sacrificing their strength training because they need to put in so much time doing endurance training, right? They do 6 days a week of running or biking or swimming or a combination of all three if you're a triathlete, or rowing or whatnot, and they don't have any time left over for strength training. And then they end up, and also lots of endurance athletes look at strength training as putting on muscle mass. And I'm going to be a bodybuilder. I'm going to put all this bulk and all this weight from strength training, and that's going to hinder my performance as an endurance athlete. Well, some of that is not true, right? So basically, what we really want is not necessarily muscle mass, right? We don't need to put on a bunch of bulk. We just need to make sure we maintain strength. And you can maintain strength or gain strength without putting on a bunch of weight. So to do that, basically you're going to train in the lower rep ranges, right? So maybe the 1 to 5 rep range. I'm sorry, my daughter's calling through a bunch of boxes. The 1 to 5 rep range for strength training, focusing on compound lifts like squats, deadlifts, bench presses, overhead press, that type of stuff. And all you really need to do is send that signal to your body that says, hey, I need this muscle around. Don't get rid of it, because I'm going to keep on sending the signal, right? So that you continue to maintain that and keep that strength around. So you can do that just very easily with 2 days a week of strength training for like 30 minutes, right? 3 sets of squats, 3 sets of deadlifts, some overhead press, and maybe some fun accessory work that you might throw in there. 30 minutes in and out, done, right? Send that signal. Just make sure your body knows that you need this muscle and to not get rid of it, and you need this strength and not to get rid of it. And I think that's a perfect balance for someone who really wants to focus on their endurance and maybe not so much in the gym. I'd like to see people in the gym strength training a little bit more than that if they're not really running like ultra endurance type of races, right? So right now my split as far as strength training and cardio is really 3 days a week of strength training and 3 days a week of cardio. And the two can complement each other, right? For example, I think everyone can hear you say hello. Everyone can hear you say hello. So if one day you go in the gym and you do some squats, and the next day you go out for a run and you're feeling it on your run, that somewhat carries over, right? I mean, your legs are tired, just like they would have been if you went for a run the day before and went for a run the next day, right? So that's maybe not the exact same effect, but it's giving you a similar kind of stimulus with the added benefit of throwing in some strength training in there. So I more of like an easy, even split. And like I said, your strength training doesn't need to be crazy bodybuilding style single joint exercises, just compound lifts and just make sure you're doing as much as you can with the time you have. And then the rest of the time you can do your cardio and endurance training. And it also depends a little bit on what you prefer. What do you enjoy, right? If you don't like strength training, then you're not. And I tell you to go into the gym and lift heavy for 6 days a week. The chances of you sticking with that program is going to be very slim to none, and then you're going to end up on the couch, which is even worse. So So I mean, if you don't like strength training, then just do the minimum amount you need to do, and then focus on what you do like to do, right? So I don't think there's one answer to this question. I think that is important that we send a signal to our body that we are using the muscle and not to get rid of it. We're eating adequate protein and doing everything else that we can to maintain that strength, right? So maybe it's just deadlifts and squats, 2 days a week. Maybe that's it. You can obviously track that type of stuff, right? So notice if you're getting stronger or weaker, or your body's changing in some way, negative way. And if you see it, with that minimum amount of exercise, you see you losing muscle mass, then, just add a little bit more until you see that it's maintained or grown. But if that works and you don't see yourself losing muscle mass, you feel strong and you feel capable, then that's all you really need to do. And just keep an eye on that, right? But I do think it's a good balance, and I think that it's something that everyone should be paying attention to, especially once you start to get into your 50s. Um, you should be concerning yourself with some strength training, and maybe backing off on the endurance exercise. The other thing I'd say is that anybody can you stop doing the paper? The other thing I would say is, are there any negative effects to endurance training, like health span wise and longevity? It's common that endurance athletes, some of them get atrial fibrillation, which is an irregular heartbeat, which then lead to heart attack or strokes. But it's not guaranteed, right? So it seems to be a very um, you know, inconsistent thing that happens. So just because you run long distances doesn't mean you're going to have atrial fibrillation. So that's something else to consider. But I haven't, both strength training and cardio are important for health and longevity. Obviously, if you go to the extreme end of the spectrum on either one of those, it's going to be detrimental to your health. So don't go to the extremes. Do a little of both, and do what you enjoy. Yep. Do what you enjoy, and that would be my answer to that question. But I do think it's ultimately important. So I hope that helps, Trevor. Sorry, that was a long, rambling answer, and this is probably a longer Facebook Live than normal, but I'm glad everyone joined me, and hope you found the answer to the questions useful. And I'm sorry that my daughter was in here distracting us, but we got to do what we do in these situations. So I'll talk to everyone next week. Please, if you have any questions, need any help or anything like that, please reach out, direct message me, leave a comment. Always happy to help. Always happy to give assistance. If you're interested in talking or any coaching, please let me know. Again, you can schedule a call with me directly from my website at rjbhealth.coach. You can also go there and sign up for our newsletter and get these weekly videos recorded and sent to your inbox along with some other content. I have a new recipe that you can download, recipe guide, some of my favorite recipes and my family's favorite recipes if you're interested in looking for some stuff to cook while you're stuck at home these next few weeks. Let me know. I can point you to that as well. Thanks again for joining, and I'll talk to everyone soon.